We are talking to former Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard, who has launched an initiative that might change the face of Indiana politics. Is that too high a bar?
I don't think so.
So explain to folks what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm running for Secretary of State as an independent, which is a bit of a change for me, as lots of people know. But I felt like it was time. I was getting tired of the toxic partisanship on both sides of the aisle, and I wanted to kind of turn down the rhetoric, turn down the heat, tone down the rhetoric, I guess. And when individuals came to me and said, will you look at this? And I did not know this, but people polled me occasionally. And so, and I looked at these numbers, and I was competitive right off the bat, even though I didn't even know they were polling me. And also that 41% of Hoosiers consider themselves to be independent, and less than 30% consider themselves to be Democrat or Republican, which is some stunning numbers. And I thought there might be a path down the middle, but wanting to run this, be nonpartisan, to be low-key, to be effective, but also, as you said, change the government, because it has ramifications beyond just the office.
Is there any point where somebody could make a case that the Secretary of State's office needs to be partisan, that it needs to be either Republican or Democrat?
Not in my mind. I understand that it needs to be partisan to get into the office. That part I understand, and I'm okay with it. But I'm not okay that once you're in there that you should be overtly partisan. I just don't think that's appropriate, because everybody who runs for office should have faith that those elections are going to be run the right way. So we've been good in Indiana about that. I'm not suggesting otherwise. And the clerks have done a tremendous job in all 92 counties. So I think all that's okay. But there's a different way of doing it around the edges, if you will.
So is there anything wrong with the actual job performance of the incumbent now, or is it the extracurricular outside the office?
I think a lot of the extracurricular, but also there are things that we can do. For instance, the voter's guide. Lots of states have voter's guide. We don't have one here in the state of Indiana. I want to provide one so that people who want to go in to vote have knowledge of who they're voting for and any issues that might be on the ballot. They don't know now. I was just at an event just a couple hours ago where they said, yeah, I don't go to vote because I don't know who I'm voting for or what I'm voting for. So I think that would help people to get out, and those who do vote will have more knowledge. So that's one of the things that can be done pretty easily. And the other thing that I'm pretty open about, that I'm not going to campaign or fundraise or donate to any campaign.
Or endorse other candidates.
Endorse anybody else, because I think it should be nonpartisan. You know, the office should not be in the news, except during election time. And unfortunately, it's in the news quite a bit.
Explain to people then, I guess, what the Secretary of State's role is.
Right.
People may not know.
Yeah, overseeing the elections with the 92 clerks is mainly most of the office. And there's a business division, a securities division, automobile dealership division, so those things are in there also. But the main thing is the elections, and that's what people should be mostly concerned about. If you want to open up a business in the state of Indiana, you go through the Secretary of State's office. And so that's the sort of thing they do also. So most of that is pretty routine stuff. They have capable people in there. But I think I want the office to be nonpartisan. I wouldn't mind if that became law, frankly.
The role is obviously one thing. The voters, the way they identify is something else. But psychologically, how hard is it, you think, for people to say, I want to vote for an independent?
We're going to help them with that. That's the intent. And I have a little bit of a name ID, certainly in central Indiana. And I was a little surprised how much my name was out there across the state of Indiana also. So people who know me know that I will do this that way. I govern that way. When I was the mayor of Indianapolis, I ran as a Republican in a Democratic city, and I governed for everybody, and that is well known. No one ever questioned that. And I will do that this time. I will do it for everybody, and that's really what the job should be doing, overseeing the elections with the 92 clerks to make sure it's done well. But doing it in a certain way, I think, matters also.
So talk to me then a little bit about your background. How did you find yourself in politics? How did you end up as a Republican in a Democratic city?
It's a story. I spent 23 years in the Marines. I grew up in Indiana, went to IU in Bloomington, spent 23 years in the Marine Corps after that, in the Gulf War back in 1991. Came back home 6 years later. A couple gentlemen were asking me to run for mayor, even though I was nobody. I mean, I knew nobody in either party. I didn't know who the major players were in the city. I knew none of that, but they thought I had the skill set to do this. As it turned out, no one would run on the Republican side. I called the county chairman. Things happen, and here I'm the candidate. And it worked out well for me, obviously, because I got outspent like 25 to 1 in that race. They spent $4 million. I spent like $200,000. Most of that, 2/3 of that, was probably the last 2 weeks of the campaign. But I knocked on doors. I talked to business groups. I talked to neighborhood groups. I talked to a lot of people. It's a tiring way of running a campaign, but I did it, and it fell my way.
Is the Republican Party beyond fixing? Like, why not just remain a Republican and try to fix it at the convention?
It's been well known I've known it for quite a few years, and the people, my advisors, if you will, the people that I trust around me, that I ask questions of still to this day. I can't win a primary. I can't win a convention. No question about that. But even beyond that, I think this is a both parties issue, if you will, not just a Republican Party issue. It's a both parties issue where what I would call the fringe on both sides, the 15% far left, far right, has become problematic. But because of gerrymandering and other policies, they kind of run the thing. They kind of run the government because they get in and then they govern in that way. People, Republicans and Democrats, used to come together. They don't do that anymore. I mean, the famous pairing was always Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. I'm old enough to remember all that. They might fight, political battles, if you will, but they went to dinner and they had drinks afterwards and things like that. That doesn't happen anymore, because if you do that, then you get primaried from the fringe, from the right or the left. That's what has to change. People have to talk to each other, and I think both parties are guilty of that, and they're saying it with a gotcha mentality. And they're trying to be personal about all this, and I think that stuff has to stop.
There is a purity test, feels like, on both sides.
In my opinion, absolutely.
If you run, or you've already said you're running, but
running,
in order to get on the ballot,
right,
there are still some hurdles, thousands of them if you want to count signatures. What's the strategy to get on the ballot?
Yeah, we're doing that right now, actually. Again, both parties don't want this to happen. And there's any number of laws and policies in place to make it very difficult. So the 37,000 signatures that I have to get sounds like a pretty punitive obstacle to me, pretty onerous in that. One of the things I'd like to change also with the help of the legislature is to take that number dramatically down for independents who want to run throughout the state or in local elections, take that number down also. Because voters deserve more choices than they have right now. And it's kind of a closed system, not just for the voters and the choices that they get, but it's also a closed system for people who want to run. Less than a quarter of the people in the state of Indiana actually can run for office today. I find that unbelievable. Because of the laws and the policies that are going into place. For instance, the 2 primary rule for each party. That's just silly. That's just silly. We have to look at those things and provide a path, another choice for people to run for office. People who can't get into those 2 systems, the Democratic and Republican systems. We need to provide a path for that. And if we do this successfully, we will do that.
But if you appear on the ballot, will you appear as an independent or as a member of a new party?
It will appear as an independent. We have to have a name because, again, talk about obstacles. If we do not have a party, which would culminate after the election, I'm in office and I want to run again, I have to go get 37,000 signatures again next time, unless there's a party name there. Seems like a big obstacle to me that they're keeping in place. That's what has to change. We have to open this up for the voters and the candidates.
So your opponents aren't yet known because both of the incumbent on the Republican side and the front runner, I guess, on the Democratic side, both face primaries or face conventions. Yeah. So is the conventional wisdom you know who you're running against, or do you even want to take that into account?
Not right now, because I'm hearing things on both sides, and I'm not paying that much attention to it because we're trying to get out across the state right now and put out our message, and I expect our message to be positive and above board. And not a gotcha mentality. That's not what we intend to do. I want to tone all that down. But whoever winds up being there, you don't know who's going to be there. There's presumptive nominees, but you don't really know. And I'm the poster boy for that back in '07.
So you would stay in the race no matter who comes out of those conventions?
Oh, no question, no question.
All right. What else do people need to know? If they want to support you, if they're interested in learning more, how do they find out?
Yeah, GregBallard.com. I'm lucky enough to have my own domain name. There's a whole story to that, but I've had it for a few years now. So all of it's right there at GregBallard.com. The video that we launched, the 2.5-minute video, I think is pretty good, pretty powerful, and people will understand exactly why we are doing what we are doing. I'm very happy that there's infrastructure around this. Also, there's pretty robust infrastructure and people supporting this. But GregBallard.com, you can go help sign. You can get a form to sign on there also and to donate and all those things. But it's all on there, and I hope people go to that. And it's GregBallard.com, pretty easy to find.
Anything else we left out?
No, I think that's great. I appreciate you doing this, Dirk. I really do.
Greg Ballard is the now independent candidate for Secretary of State in Indiana, and you've seen him here on Wayne.com and Wayne 15.